a world obsessed with chasing status, people, and approval, the Stoic man moves differently. He does not run after what is fleeting. He does not dissipate his energy in pursuing distractions. Instead, he builds, patiently, silently, relentlessly, forging his mind, character, and purpose. In that process of building from the inside out, he discovers a deeper power. Solitude, for the Stoic man, is not emptiness or loneliness. It is a training ground. Discipline matters more to him than desire. Alignment with his principles outweighs the fickle approval of others. Emotional independence becomes his quiet superpower. He works without fanfare, because the work itself is the reward. Relationships can enrich his life, but his mission remains primary. He is even comfortable being misunderstood, for he knows clarity matters more than popularity. In stillness, he finds truths that noise would hide. He guards his inner peace like a fortress, leads himself before leading others, and often lets silence speak for him. Below, we explore these principles one by one, why the Stoic man doesn't chase but builds, and how through that, he becomes unshakable. 1. Solitude is not emptiness, it's a training ground. Many people fear solitude. They flee into crowds, noise, and endless distractions, treating silence as a void to avoid. The Stoic man sees it differently. Solitude is not a void, but a forge for self-development. Marcus Aurelius himself advised that nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. In choosing to retreat into himself, the Stoic isn't escaping life. He's preparing for it. Solitude strips away external clutter. Alone, the Stoic man faces himself with no masks and no audience. He confronts his thoughts, examines his weaknesses, and uncovers his true values. As Seneca observed, nothing proves a well-ordered mind better than a man's ability to stop and spend time in his own company. The man who fears being alone has not yet made peace with himself. He constantly needs others to validate his worth or distract him from his inner unease. But the Stoic man embraces solitude, knowing that if you cannot be with yourself, you will never be whole with others. Solitude is where genuine self-knowledge is born, and without self-knowledge, no amount of external success or companionship can fill the void. In practice, the Stoic man uses solitude proactively to sharpen his mind and strengthen his spirit. He does not mindlessly consume entertainment to kill time. He deliberately invests time alone to forge understanding. This might include reading, reflective journaling, or simply sitting with his thoughts. Every piece of knowledge or insight is weighed and integrated. The goal isn't to fill time, but to cultivate depth. In a world awash with shallow opinions and instant answers, this habit of deep thought becomes a rare strength. Solitude is also where discipline is tested and forged. When no one else is watching, can he maintain his principles? Can he rise early without an audience to praise him? Can he stick to his exercise or study routine with no one cheering him on? Such moments, unseen by others, measure true discipline. Without the eyes of others, integrity. He keeps his commitments, waking early, eating clean, etc., even when no one would know if he faltered. Self-control. He resists indulgences, junk food, mindless internet scrolling, etc., without needing external judgment to restrain him. Purpose. He works on his personal mission, skills, health, knowledge, even when there is no immediate reward or applause. Through these solitary tests, the Stoic man proves to himself that his values are not mere performance for social approval, but principles for himself. True discipline is doing the right thing even when nobody is watching. Finally, solitude gives the Stoic man clarity of direction. In quiet, he can ask himself tough questions. Am I living according to my beliefs? Am I building the life I truly want, or just living up to others' expectations? Without regular moments of reflection, it's too easy to drift through life reactively, chasing one thing after another. Solitude provides the still space to align actions with values. It allows clarity to triumph over confusion, intention to replace impulse. Modern research even confirms some benefits. Time spent alone by choice can lower stress and help people feel more free to be themselves. In short, solitude, used well, becomes power. It's a space where the Stoic man can recharge, self-correct, and emerge stronger and more focused. Ask yourself, how do you approach solitude? Do you avoid being alone and seek distractions, or do you utilize solitude as a training ground for your mind and character? Remember, the man who is strong alone can stand anywhere with composure. He does not chase companionship out of fear. He builds inner strength in solitude, and that strength goes with him everywhere. 2. He builds before he bonds. In modern culture, there is relentless pressure to seek connection, to date constantly, to network incessantly, to never be alone. Many men fall into chasing relationships in the hope of finding validation or purpose through others. The Stoic man takes a different path. He builds himself before he bonds with anyone else. He isn't looking for a relationship to complete him. He seeks to complete himself first. Why this order? Because without a solid inner foundation, every bond risks becoming a crutch or a burden. If you enter a friendship or romance hoping to be rescued from your own insecurities or loneliness, you place an impossible weight on the other person. You're asking them to fill gaps in your soul that only you can truly fill. This often leads to dependence, disappointment, and unhealthy dynamics. The Stoic man understands that a healthy relationship should be an addition to an already meaningful life, not the definition of it. So he focuses on building his foundation before he seeks to bond, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. He clarifies his values, strengthens his discipline, and cultivates his purpose. Only then does he invite someone else into his life, and even then, only someone who aligns with the life he's building. Marcus Aurelius valued friendships and family, yet he never relied on them to define his virtue or direction. His writings show a man grounded in himself, capable of love and friendship, yet never defined by them. This is the Stoic model. Hold space for others, but never lose yourself in the process. In practical terms, building before bonding means the Stoic man doesn't rush into companionship just to avoid being alone. He uses periods of singleness or solitude to grow. He asks himself, who am I becoming? What kind of life am I creating? Who, if anyone, would truly belong beside me on this journey? By approaching relationships from this position of clarity, he ensures that any bond is based on genuine compatibility and shared values, rather than mutual emptiness. The result is that when he does form a relationship or friendship, it's healthier, freer, and more authentic. There is no desperate clinging or performing. Each person brings their whole self to the table, strong, secure, and sovereign. If the bond helps both grow and supports the mission, it's welcomed. If it distracts or detracts, it's respectfully released. This mindset also protects the Stoic man from manipulation or peer pressure. Many people chase relationships out of fear of loneliness, fear of missing out, fear of social judgment. And in that fear, they become easy to sway. They may compromise their values for approval or stay in toxic situations out of codependency. The Stoic man, having built his own life first, is immune to such pressures. His sense of self-worth isn't contingent on another's approval. His direction doesn't waver based on who is or isn't in his life. Because of that, he can walk away from negative people or unhealthy situations without feeling shattered. Ask yourself, are you building your life before you seek to bond with others? Or are you looking for others to give your life meaning and direction? Imagine entering a relationship already whole, so that the other person is a companion, not a savior. The Stoic man knows, those who chase relationships from a place of emptiness remain empty. Those who build wholeness first bring something real to any relationship. 3. Discipline over desire. Desire is a powerful force, arguably one of the most intoxicating forces in life. The desire for comfort, for pleasure, for status or validation can easily drive one's actions. In our modern world, entire industries, marketing, social media, etc., exist to stoke these cravings and promise instant gratification. As a result, many men live as slaves to their urges, chasing what feels good in the moment at the expense of what is good in the long run. The Stoic man consciously rejects this path. He chooses discipline over desire. This doesn't mean he denies himself all pleasure or lives an austere, joyless life. Rather, he understands a deep truth. Unchecked desire weakens the will. Every time you surrender to a fleeting impulse, binging on junk food, scrolling mindlessly on your phone, indulging in a dubious temptation, you erode the faculties that make you strong. Patience, clarity, and self-control are gradually worn down by the habit of giving in. As Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Chief among those things beyond our full control are our untamed desires. The Stoic man seeks true freedom, not the false freedom of doing whatever he craves, but the real freedom of mastery over himself. Consider how this plays out in daily life. The Stoic man strives not to let hunger dictate his diet. He eats with intention and moderation, fueling his body wisely. He doesn't let lust drive him into compromising situations. He governs his passions with reason and respect. He doesn't chase money by any means necessary. He pursues purpose and earns wealth only through honorable avenues. In every domain, he pauses to ask, is this action in line with my principles and long-term goals, or am I simply surrendering to a fleeting pleasure? If it's the latter, he exercises restraint. Importantly, discipline for the Stoic man is not about harsh repression, it's about redirection. He isn't trying to kill his desires completely, he's training them to serve his highest values. He channels his energy toward growth and meaningful pursuits instead of short-term thrills. This requires constant self-awareness. The Stoic practices what the Stoics call premeditation of the passions, anticipating temptations and preparing a principled response in advance. He knows, for example, that he will face the lure of mindless entertainment or the pull of procrastination, so he sets routines and rules for himself to guard against those. He treats willpower like a muscle to be exercised daily. Modern psychology supports this ancient wisdom. Studies on impulse control show that indulging in instant gratification can create vicious cycles of dependency in the brain. Each time we impulsively satisfy a craving, sugar, social media, shopping, etc., we reinforce neural pathways that make us more likely to repeat the behavior. In fact, we start to get a dopamine hit merely from anticipating these rewards, which triggers cravings even before we indulge. Over time, constantly giving in to desires actually weakens our ability to resist them. Our brain learns to expect easy rewards, and our willpower muscles atrophy. This is why a man who habitually chases pleasure often feels restless, weak, or dissatisfied. He has, in a sense, trained himself to be at the mercy of his urges. The Stoic man breaks that cycle through discipline. Each act of restraint, each time he says no to a lesser impulse in favor of a greater goal, strengthens his resolve. Over time, he builds an integrity and self-command that cannot be easily swayed by temptation. Paradoxically, this self-mastery leads to greater enjoyment of life, not less. When pleasures are occasional and earned, they are savored more deeply. When one's mind is not clouded by constant indulgence, even simple things bring satisfaction. And when actions align with purpose, even the struggles along the way become meaningful. The Stoic man does not live a joyless life. He lives a focused life, where joy comes from genuine accomplishments and inner harmony rather than from spur-of-the-moment indulgences. Ask yourself, where are you governed by raw desire instead of guided by disciplined choice? What impulses regularly steal your time, health, or focus? And how could you begin to reclaim control? Remember, the man who chases every desire becomes a servant to those desires, but the man who chooses disciplined action becomes the master of his own life. And mastery, not indulgence, is the foundation of an unshakable character. 4. Alignment, not approval. The craving for approval is one of life's subtlest traps. It wears many faces: the need to be liked, to fit in, to be praised, to avoid criticism. In the age of social media, where likes and comments quantify public approval, it's easier than ever to fall into living for others' validation. But the Stoic man sees through this illusion. He does not chase approval, he chases alignment with his own principles and purpose. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly: if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. In other words, integrity is the yardstick, not popularity. The Stoic measures his actions against his inner standards, not the shifting winds of public opinion. This mindset grants a powerful freedom. If you think about it, approval is fickle. What pleases the crowd today may earn you scorn tomorrow. A life built on others' approval is like a house built on sand, ever at the mercy of storms of opinion. Alignment with one's values, however, is a solid foundation that endures. In practice, choosing alignment over approval means the Stoic man is willing to stand alone when needed. He isn't swayed by every trend or peer pressure. If everyone around him is engaging in something he believes is wrong or foolish, he has the strength to say no and walk his own path. He would rather be true to himself and misunderstood by others than applauded for betraying his values. This is not always easy. Humans naturally enjoy being liked. It takes courage to risk disapproval. Epictetus advised those on the path of improvement to be prepared for others to not understand. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. The Stoic man internalizes this. He knows that if living with virtue makes some people think him odd, so be it. Better to be considered foolish by the ignorant than to compromise your character to seem smart in their eyes. Consider relationships. The Stoic man does not contort his beliefs or personality just to make someone like him. He does not people-please at the cost of his own integrity. He speaks truth kindly, but does not lie to avoid conflict. If someone important to him pressures him to violate his principles, he holds his ground respectfully. He's willing to disappoint others in the short term if it means not disappointing himself in the long term. This clarity actually improves the quality of his relationships because the people in his life know where he stands and can trust his word. His yes means yes and no means no, grounded in his real values. The same holds at work or in society at large. A Stoic leader, for example, will choose what is right for the project or the team, even if it's unpopular, rather than make a convenient but unethical choice to win easy praise. In the long run, this earns genuine respect. People might not always like a man who sticks to his principles, but they often come to respect him. And more importantly, he respects himself. By not constantly chasing outside approval, he attains a precious inner peace. The man chasing approval is perpetually anxious. Do they like me? Am I impressing them? But the Stoic man, aligned with his conscience, moves through life with a quiet confidence. He likes who he is, and that matters more than any applause. Now, alignment over approval doesn't mean the Stoic man is rude or oblivious to feedback. He remains open to honest critique and willing to learn from others. He just doesn't make others' opinions the North Star of his decisions. In fact, as Epictetus also noted, if you pursue virtue, be prepared to be misunderstood or even mocked by some. The Stoic accepts this. If you wish to improve, be content to appear foolish, he reminds himself, because the pursuit of wisdom isn't always popular in the moment. Ask yourself, in what areas of life are you sacrificing alignment for approval? Do you ever bite your tongue or go along with something just to avoid rocking the boat, even when it violates your values? What would it look like to stand firm in your truth, courteously but unapologetically, whether others approve or not? Remember, the man who lives for the crowd remains their slave. The man who lives by his principles walks free. In that freedom lies the unshakable peace that the Stoic cherishes. 5. Emotional independence is his superpower. Many men live at the mercy of their emotions, and worse, at the mercy of others' emotions. Their mood soars or crashes based on how someone treats them, what's said about them, or events entirely outside their control. In effect, they outsource their peace of mind to the world, granting everyone else secret power over them. The Stoic man chooses a different way. Emotional independence is his quiet superpower. He does not hand the keys of his inner state to anyone. He carries his serenity within. This isn't about being cold or unfeeling. The Stoic man experiences the full range of emotions. He simply refuses to be ruled by them. Think of it like an oak tree in the wind. The branches sway, but the trunk remains rooted. The Stoic feels anger, sadness, love, joy, but he observes these feelings and responds thoughtfully rather than reacting blindly. He remembers Epictetus's fundamental teaching. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. In other words, events, even painful ones, don't directly dictate our feelings. It's our interpretation of those events that does. The Stoic man takes this to heart. He realizes that if someone insults him, or if a plan falls through, it is ultimately his choice whether to let it upset him. He can't control others' actions or all external happenings, but he can control his response. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Consider relationships and social interactions. Many people enter relationships emotionally dependent, needing constant reassurance, attention, or validation from their partner to feel okay. This often leads to insecurity or clinginess, which can strain the relationship. The Stoic man, by contrast, enters relationships as a whole person. He does not look to a partner to fix his moods or self-esteem. If his partner is in a bad mood, he offers empathy, but doesn't automatically absorb that negativity. If he receives a criticism, he evaluates it calmly. Is it valid feedback to use, or just noise to ignore? By owning his emotional state, he actually improves his relationships because he brings stability and doesn't burden others with managing his mood swings. In the workplace, emotional independence is equally powerful. The Stoic man doesn't let office politics or a boss's temperament derail his focus. If he is criticized unfairly, he doesn't erupt or collapse. He stays composed and addresses the issue or moves on. People start to notice that he's the one who can stay calm under pressure. This makes him an anchor in group situations. Colleagues know he won't fly off the handle or crumble when challenges arise. Such steadiness is a rare asset. It inspires trust and earns leadership opportunities, not because he chased authority, but because he demonstrated self-leadership. More on that later. It's important to note that achieving this emotional steadiness is a trainable skill, not an inherent trait. The Stoic man cultivates it through daily practices. For example, he might start the morning with a few minutes of meditation or reflection, grounding himself for the day. He reminds himself of the Stoic dichotomy of control. What can I control today? My attitudes, choices, effort. What can I not fully control? Other people's actions, the outcome of efforts, etc. I will focus only on the first. Such mental preparation means when an inevitable frustration pops up, he's ready. Instead of immediately reacting, he takes a breath. He might recall Epictetus's counsel that another's actions are that person's business, not mine. This creates a little gap between stimulus and response, in which he can choose a wise reaction. Over time, those little gaps add up to a general aura of composure. Even when truly difficult events happen, a betrayal by someone close, a business failure, an accident, the Stoic man works through the emotions with courage. He doesn't pretend not to feel hurt or disappointment. He simply refuses to let those feelings dictate destructive actions or define his identity. He might journal about the pain, seek counsel from a mentor, or engage in physical exercise to process stress. But he continually comes back to the idea. Their actions are theirs. My response is mine. By focusing on his response, he retains power over his life. Seneca famously wrote, "He who is brave is free." One of the greatest freedoms is precisely this emotional freedom. the ability to stand whole and steady whether accompanied or alone, praised or criticized. The Stoic man's bravery is in facing life's ups and downs without dissolving, and in that bravery, he finds freedom. Ask yourself, where are you outsourcing your peace? Are there people whose words or moods instantly control your mood? What would it look like to start reclaiming that control? It might mean pausing before responding to a provocative text, or reminding yourself, I won't let this ruin my day when someone is rude. Remember, the man who needs others to regulate his emotions will always be on a roller coaster. The man who carries his own peace within stands unshakable. By strengthening your mind, you become like that oak tree, deeply rooted, not easily shaken by passing winds. 6. He works in silence, not for applause. In the age of constant sharing, attention has become a kind of currency. It's tempting to announce every goal or every small victory to the world, seeking validation or encouragement. But the Stoic man understands that real work, the kind that builds lasting results, is done for its own sake, not for applause. He values substance over show. Thus, he often works in silence and lets the outcome speak for itself. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." The Stoic man takes this to heart. He does not talk about the code he lives by as much as he simply lives by it. Similarly, when he has a goal, he channels his energy into achieving it rather than broadcasting it. This habit of not bragging or oversharing has practical benefits. Modern psychology suggests that announcing your big goals can sometimes trick your mind into feeling you've accomplished something, leading to a premature sense of completeness and less motivation to actually follow through. In one study, law students who made a public commitment to study harder actually put in less work than those who kept their commitment private. The public declaration gave them an illusory satisfaction. The Stoic man intuitively avoids this trap by keeping his focus on the process, not others' reactions. Practically speaking, working in silence means the Stoic man is not addicted to posting his progress on social media or seeking constant feedback. If he's training for a marathon, he might just quietly do his miles each morning without telling everyone how grind his workout was. If he's building a business or studying for a degree, he keeps his head down and does the work. It's not that he's secretive or antisocial. He simply isn't doing these things for the external validation. He finds satisfaction in the progress itself. When he does share, it's usually after the fact. Once the project is done or the goal achieved, he might then talk about it, mainly to help or inspire others, not to seek praise. As a result, his energy is conserved for what truly matters. He's not distracted checking how many likes his post got or fishing for compliments. All that attention is channeled into honing his craft, learning, improving. This approach builds integrity and excellence. The Stoic man becomes internally driven. Since his self-worth isn't tied to immediate applause, he's willing to toil patiently through long, thankless phases of work that are often necessary for big achievements. While others might lose steam when recognition is not forthcoming, he keeps going. And paradoxically, by not chasing recognition, he often achieves a level of mastery that eventually earns recognition in a more meaningful way. People might start to notice he's really knowledgeable, or where did this level of fitness or skill come from? And it came from those silent early mornings or late nights of effort that no one witnessed. Another benefit, focus. Without the urge to perform publicly, the Stoic man can enter a state of deep work. He's doing it for the craft, for the mission, which allows a purer form of concentration. Many artists, writers, and innovators have noted that their best work happens outside the spotlight, in periods of solitude and obscurity, where they can experiment, make mistakes, and grow without public judgment. The Stoic man isn't afraid to be invisible while he's learning and building. He doesn't need to constantly prove to the world that he's making progress. He'd rather be good than just look good. It's worth noting that this doesn't mean the Stoic man never celebrates or shares accomplishments. He does, but he does so with a sense of humility and perspective. By the time applause might come, he usually has the wisdom to not let it get to his head, because he remembers when there was no applause and he was fine without it. His identity is rooted in the work and the values behind it, not in the fickle feedback from onlookers. Ask yourself, are you working for the work itself, or secretly for applause? When you set a goal, do you immediately tell everyone for validation, or do you knuckle down and make it happen? Where might you be leaking energy by seeking attention for your efforts, energy that could be better used to improve those efforts? Consider trying the Stoic approach. Pick an important goal and work on it quietly for a while. Let the results announce themselves when the time comes. Remember, attention is noise, but results are quiet. The Stoic man chooses the quiet path of real results. The strongest foundations are laid unseen, and from those foundations, he builds an unshakable life. 7. Relationships are optional, purpose is not. Many men get this backwards. They treat relationships as the must-have center of life and purpose as a nice-to-have extra. They chase connection first, hoping it will give them meaning. The Stoic man knows this is a mistake. Relationships are valuable but optional. Purpose is essential. Without a clear purpose, a man drifts. With purpose, he has direction whether or not he is in a relationship. Thus, the Stoic man organizes his life around his mission first. From that position of strength, he can choose to form relationships, but he never needs them to define him. This principle isn't about dismissing relationships. Family, friends, love. These can be profound parts of a rich life. The key is order and dependency. The Stoic man is very cautious about making someone else the center of his universe. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." One interpretation is that true courage gives you freedom from dependencies, including emotional overdependence on others. The Stoic man's bravery lies in standing whole on his own. He believes one of the greatest freedoms is the ability to be emotionally independent, as we discussed above. So he ensures that his sense of worth and direction come from within, his values, his goals, his character, not from a relationship status. Whether single or with a partner, he remains the same grounded person. When a man puts purpose first, an interesting thing happens. Relationships often become healthier, because he isn't entering them out of desperation or a need to complete himself. He can be more level-headed in choosing whom to be with and how to conduct the relationship. He doesn't cling to harmful people out of fear of being alone. He doesn't smother a partner out of insecurity. Instead, he can appreciate the other person as a companion on life's journey without confusing them for the journey itself. Each person in the relationship retains their individuality and supports the other's growth. There's mutual respect rather than codependency. Purpose-first living also makes a man selective about whom he lets into his life. He will ask, does this person's values and direction align with mine? Do we uplift each other? If not, he may enjoy an acquaintance but keep his distance emotionally, or let the relationship go if it's draining. This isn't heartless. It's recognizing that who we surround ourselves with deeply affects whether we stay true to our mission or get derailed. A Stoic protects his most precious resource, time and focus, by sharing it only with those who add meaning or virtue to his life. If a relationship, whether friendship, romantic, or even family, becomes toxic or fundamentally misaligned with his principles, he has the strength to step back from it. Because his primary anchor is his purpose, he won't be wrecked if someone disapproves or leaves. He certainly can feel pain or loss. Stoics are not unfeeling robots, but he will not be destroyed by it. His life still has structure and meaning because it was never solely built on that person. It was built on something larger. It's worth noting that this inner steadiness paradoxically makes the Stoic man more attractive as a partner and friend. People are naturally drawn to those who have their own direction and confidence. We respect those who love others deeply, yet non-neurotically. The Stoic man can give love and support without burdening the loved one with unrealistic expectations to fix him or make him whole. This independence can foster a relationship of two whole individuals sharing rather than two halves clinging. Furthermore, by keeping purpose front and center, The Stoic man ensures that if a relationship does end, it doesn't shatter him. Breakups, betrayals, and losses are painful, yes, but because he has a purpose, he can recover and continue forward. He doesn't lose his identity when he loses a person. Compare this to someone who has no focal purpose. If their relationship ends, they feel their life has ended because they had made the other person their raison d'être. The Stoic avoids that tragic situation by never abandoning his own path, even when walking side by side with another. Ask yourself, is your life centered on purpose or relationships? If some key relationships were to change or end, would you still know who you are and what you value? Are you pursuing a mission that gives you fulfillment regardless of who comes or goes in your life? The Stoic man loves and appreciates people, but he does not hinge his entire existence on them. His mission remains steady and clear, a north star that guides him through calm and storm alike. By building a life that stands on purpose, he creates a strength that any relationship can complement, but none can take away. Purpose is the one companion that never leaves, and on that foundation he walks an unshakable path. 8. He's comfortable being misunderstood. Most of us have a strong impulse to correct others' misunderstandings about us. If someone thinks ill of us unfairly, or just doesn't get us, we rush to defend, explain, or win them over. The Stoic man trains himself to be comfortable being misunderstood when necessary. He recognizes that if you commit to living by principle, some people will misinterpret you, and that's okay. His goal is to do right, not to be universally understood. Marcus Aurelius offered a timeless perspective. You have power over your mind, not outside events. One of those unpredictable outside events is others' perceptions. No matter how clearly you live or speak, people will project their own biases and backgrounds onto your actions. The Stoic man internalizes the idea that what others think of me is not fully under my control, so I will not squander energy obsessing over it. As long as his own conscience knows he is striving to do the right thing, he lets misinterpretations roll off his back like rain off a coat. Consider some scenarios. If the Stoic man chooses solitude or spends time by himself, some might label him antisocial or assume he's depressed or arrogant. When he prioritizes his work or values over going along with the crowd, people might call him stubborn or aloof. If he declines to engage in gossip or backbiting, those who do might see him as self-righteous. When he holds firm on an ethical stance, those inconvenienced by it might brand him difficult. All these misunderstandings can and do happen to anyone who walks an independent path. The average person might bend themselves to avoid these labels. Oh no, I don't want them to think I'm rude, so I'll just do what they ask, even if it's wrong. The Stoic man does not. He remains courteous and open to communication, sure, but he won't contort himself purely to satisfy others' narratives. Importantly, being comfortable with being misunderstood is not an excuse to act like a jerk and dismiss all feedback. The Stoic man is happy to clarify if a true friend raises a concern or if an explanation would genuinely help someone he cares about. He's not stonewalling the world, he's simply picking his battles wisely. He knows that constant justification is a fool's errand. People will believe what they want to believe. If you spend all your time defending yourself, you'll never get anything else done. So he focuses on living rightly and lets his consistent actions vindicate him over time. There's a quiet confidence in this approach. Think of a skilled, honorable person you know who never brags or argues about their reputation. They just keep doing good work. Often, even if they were doubted initially, eventually people come around to see their value. And even if some never do, the person's impact speaks for itself. The Stoic man trusts in this. He'd rather be good and let time reveal it than constantly say, "I'm good, please see it." In a sense, his patience extends to his image. He doesn't panic over every rumor or misinterpretation. Marcus Aurelius put it succinctly, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." By sticking to that, you can maintain self-respect. And as for others' chatter, Aurelius also reminded himself that everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Knowing this, the Stoic man can shrug when someone misjudges him. He might think, they don't have the full picture and that's fine. My life isn't for them, it's for me to live rightly. Ask yourself, how much energy do you waste trying to control what others think of you? Have you ever over-explained yourself to people who had already judged you, only to find it fruitless? While open communication is good, there comes a point where you must let go of managing every perception. The Stoic challenge is to be kind and honest, but not needy of approval, tying back to Principle 4. Being willing to be misunderstood is a form of strength. It means you trust that over the long run, truth will either come out, or at least you'll have your own integrity intact. Remember, the Stoic man doesn't need everyone to understand him. He'd rather be true to himself and have a few people truly know him than betray himself trying to convince everyone else. In practical terms, next time someone misjudges your motives, consider calmly whether it's worth setting the record straight. Do so if it's important, but if it's trivial or they're not open-minded, save your breath. Continue on your path. Your peace is worth more than their opinion. This ability to continue undeterred, even when misunderstood, makes the Stoic man unshakable in pursuing what he knows to be right. 9. Stillness reveals what noise hides. We live in a noisy world, not just literal noise, but informational and mental noise. Endless notifications, news feeds, group chats, entertainment on demand. Our attention is constantly under siege. Amid all this, many people have forgotten the value of stillness. The Stoic man actively cultivates moments of stillness because he knows that stillness reveals insights and truths that constant noise obscures. Marcus Aurelius wrote frequently about the importance of withdrawing into oneself, even amid a busy life. He recommended taking retreats into the mind to recharge. This isn't escapism, it's clarity. Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul, he observed. In practical terms, the Stoic man will deliberately disconnect from the chatter at times. Perhaps he has a daily practice, waking up early to sit in quiet thought before the day's chaos begins, or taking a walk without his phone in the afternoon. In those moments, he can actually hear his own thoughts and feelings clearly. Why is this important? Because in the constant hustle, it's easy to confuse busyness with progress and noise with knowledge. You might be racing through life achieving things, but have you stopped to ask if those things align with your soul? Stillness allows such questions to surface. It's often in quiet moments that the Stoic man might realize, for example, that a project he's working on doesn't truly matter to him and needs to be adjusted or dropped. Or he may notice a nagging emotion, perhaps he's been more irritable lately, and trace it to its source, maybe a value he's compromised or a goal he's neglected. Noise drowns out these subtle signals. Stillness lets them emerge. Furthermore, stillness is restorative. Constant noise and activity put us in a reactive mode. Our nervous system stays keyed up, and our attention flits from one thing to another. Over time, this can lead to burnout, or at least a shallow mode of living. The Stoic man uses stillness as a tool to prevent that. Even 10 minutes of true quiet, no music, no scrolling, just being, can lower one's arousal level and bring a sense of calm perspective. Problems that felt enormous might shrink in those moments of objectivity. Creative solutions can bubble up when the mind has space to wander freely instead of being constantly bombarded. It's telling that many Stoics, and philosophers in general, valued practices like journaling or meditation, though they might not have used that exact term. These are forms of cultivated stillness. When Seneca or Epictetus advise us to review our day each evening, quietly reflecting on what went well or poorly, it's an example of using stillness for self-improvement. Modern science backs this up. Studies on mindfulness meditation find it improves focus and emotional regulation. Even without formal meditation, simply sitting in silence, perhaps looking at nature or sipping tea without stimulation, can yield similar benefits. In the Stoic view, stillness is not just the absence of noise, but the presence of clarity. In silence, you may confront truths you've been avoiding. That can be uncomfortable, which is one reason people avoid stillness. The quiet can force you to face yourself. But the Stoic man welcomes it, knowing that an unpleasant truth is better than a pleasant illusion. Did I act out of ego in that argument? Am I pursuing this career path because I love it, or because I'm afraid of disappointing someone? Such questions require quiet honesty with oneself. Practically, embracing stillness might mean instituting small habits. No phone for the first hour in the morning, or taking one day a week as a digital Sabbath with devices off. It could mean closing the office door or finding a park bench to think for 15 minutes in the midst of a busy day. It could simply be practicing listening more and talking less in conversations, creating micro-stillness to truly hear others. The Stoic man finds what works for him to regularly clear the mental clutter. Ask yourself, how often do you experience true stillness? When was the last time you sat in a room with no noise and just observed your thoughts? If the idea makes you uneasy, that might indicate there are things within asking for your attention. What insights might you be missing by drowning every free moment in social media, TV, or chatter? Consider experimenting with a bit of stillness. Start small if needed. Remember, the average man hides in noise, but the Stoic man uses silence to listen to himself. In that quiet space, what is trivial falls away, and what is truly important comes into focus. That clarity is a competitive advantage in life and a wellspring of inner strength. 10. He protects his peace like a fortress. Peace of mind is a precious treasure, yet many people give it away without a fight. They allow every little provocation, a traffic jam, a snide comment online, a trivial dispute, to penetrate and disturb them. The Stoic man, having cultivated inner peace through the previous principles, guards that peace fiercely. He treats his mind like a fortress with gates that he controls. Not everything and everyone gets to enter and cause chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do, only what you do. In other words, a huge amount of disturbance vanishes when you stop absorbing other people's opinions and actions into yourself. The Stoic man takes this to heart. He reminds himself that most of the noise out there is just that, noise. He asks, is this issue or comment truly important to my life's mission or my duties? Or is it a distraction and noise? If it's the latter, he lets it pass. Protecting peace in practice often comes down to setting boundaries, both external and internal. External boundaries. The Stoic man doesn't feel obligated to respond to every message or invitation immediately. He allocates time for deep work or family or rest, and during those times he might silence his phone or ignore emails. If someone is chronically negative or toxic toward him, he minimizes contact with that person if possible. He's not afraid to say no to demands on his time that don't align with his priorities. For example, he won't attend a gossip-filled gathering just out of FOMO if he knows it leaves him feeling drained. He'd rather use that time in ways that preserve or enhance his peace, like reading, exercise, or a calm night with a loved one. This might disappoint some people, but he knows that in the big picture, maintaining his tranquility allows him to be more effective and present when it truly counts. Internal boundaries. The Stoic man also guards his mind from toxic thought patterns. He practices noticing when he's slipping into useless rumination, replaying an insult, worrying about an unknown future, and gently steers his mind back to the present or to solutions. He uses reason to challenge anxious thoughts. Is this within my control? If not, worrying is wasted effort. He focuses on gratitude to counteract envy or frustration. By cultivating an inner dialogue that is firm but calm, he becomes less vulnerable to emotional hijacking. In essence, he places a sentry at the gate of his mind, filtering what thoughts and attitudes he allows to take up residence. Protecting one's peace is not about avoidance of all conflict or discomfort. The Stoic man will confront issues head-on when duty or virtue demands it. But even then, he does so from a place of steady resolve, not reactive anger. For example, if a colleague is behaving unethically, the Stoic man can assertively address it, but he won't do so in a way that destroys his own peace, such as flying into a rage or holding a grudge. He might calmly report the issue to a superior or have a direct conversation, then let go of the outcome that he can't control. He doesn't dwell and fret endlessly after taking proper action. One of the biggest peace stealers is getting caught in petty arguments or endless debates, especially in the online world. The Stoic man asks himself before engaging, is this argument actually useful? Am I likely to change their mind or mine, or is this just ego and noise? 9 times out of 10, he'll conclude it's not worth it and keep scrolling or walk away. He'd rather be calm than right about trivial matters. As an analogy, imagine your peace of mind as a clean, organized room. Every pointless argument or bit of drama is like someone tracking mud into your room. You have to spend time cleaning it up afterwards. The Stoic man decides carefully who and what to let through the door. It's notable that by guarding his peace, the Stoic man often radiates a tranquility that benefits others too. People around him might say he has a grounding presence. This is because he's not easily pulled into the collective anxiety or outrage of the moment. He can listen to someone vent without catching the emotional contagion. He can be the voice of reason in a heated meeting, precisely because he kept his inner fortress secure while others let theirs be breached. In a chaotic world, a calm mind is both a refuge and a source of strength. Ask yourself, what regularly robs you of peace, and can you set a boundary there? Is it doom-scrolling news late at night? Try setting a cutoff time for screens. Is it an argumentative acquaintance? Consider limiting your exposure or not taking their bait. Is it your own habit of perfectionism or people-pleasing? Practice reminding yourself that it's impossible to please everyone and okay to be good enough sometimes. Identify one leak in your peace fortress and plan a way to plug it. Remember, protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's strategic. When your mind is a fortified haven, you think more clearly and act more wisely. The Stoic man guards his tranquility not to hide from life, but so that he can engage in life from a position of strength and clarity. His mind, once disturbed by every breeze, becomes as impregnable as a citadel on a hill. From there he can face far greater storms without fear. 11. He leads himself first. Everyone wants to lead in some capacity, to influence others, to direct a team, to guide a family, to make a mark on their community. But true leadership begins with self-leadership. The Stoic man knows that he cannot control or guide others reliably if he cannot control himself. Thus, he focuses on governing his own mind, choices, and habits as the prerequisite to any external leadership. Marcus Aurelius, who literally was the emperor of Rome, wrote in his private journal, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." Despite ruling over millions, Aurelius's primary battle was to lead himself, to be a good man in action, not just in words. This ethos is at the heart of Stoic self-leadership. The Stoic man holds himself to high standards whether or not anyone else knows or cares. He does the right thing in the small, mundane moments, getting out of bed on time, keeping his temper with a difficult customer, double-checking his work for accuracy, because he knows these little victories over self make him strong and trustworthy. Let's break down what leading oneself entails. Mastering impulses. A leader who is a slave to his own impulses, anger, greed, laziness, lust, will eventually fail and possibly harm others in the process. The Stoic man therefore trains to master those impulses. If he feels anger rising, he pauses and considers a measured response instead of lashing out. If he craves something unhealthy or unethical, he reminds himself of his principles and long-term goals, tipping the scales back toward restraint. This doesn't mean he's never tempted. It means he's prepared to overcome temptation more often than not. People around him then see a person who stays calm under provocation and doesn't act rashly, a natural leader by example. Owning his time and commitments. The Stoic man treats his time like gold. He recognizes that how he structures his day is a reflection of what he values. He strives not to procrastinate or drift aimlessly. If he decides something is important, whether it's exercising, spending time with family, or working on a business idea, he schedules it and honors that commitment to himself. By leading himself to do what needs to be done, instead of waiting for someone else to prod him, he becomes reliable and proactive. This self-discipline often translates into success in professional realms. For instance, a Stoic-minded manager will not ask his team to work hard while he slacks off. He'll be the first to roll up his sleeves. As the saying goes, example is leadership. He exemplifies what he expects and thus earns respect. Continuous self-improvement. A self-leading man is always learning. He doesn't stagnate because he's accountable to himself for growth. He reads, he seeks mentors, he reflects on mistakes to glean lessons. This humility and dedication to improvement mean that over time, he becomes very competent in his pursuits. Others then naturally look to him for guidance, since he clearly knows what he's doing and is always refining his craft. Contrast this with someone who tries to lead others without working on himself. It usually breeds resentment or poor results, because people eventually see through the inconsistencies. Ethical consistency. The Stoic man strives to align his actions with virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, temperance. He doesn't compartmentalize his integrity. He aims to be the same person when alone or when others are watching. If he expects honesty from his children or team, he practices honesty in his own affairs. If he values fairness, he treats the waiter with the same respect as the CEO. This moral consistency builds credibility. People trust what he says because it matches what he does. That trust is the bedrock of meaningful influence. It's often said that to lead is to serve. The Stoic man lives this by first serving his own development. By doing the hard work to govern himself, he actually frees up energy to serve others well. He's not battling his own chaos all day, so he can be present for the needs of those he leads. He's not perfect, no one is. But when he falls short, he admits it and corrects course. Another mark of a true leader. When challenges hit, a crisis at work, a family emergency, the self-led Stoic man is prepared. He has trained himself to be level-headed, responsible, and resilient. So in the chaos, others naturally turn to him. He doesn't have to seize leadership. It gravitates to him because he's ready and steady. Ask yourself, where might you be trying to lead, at work, at home, among friends, without fully leading yourself? Do you preach calm but frequently panic? Do you advise diligence but often procrastinate? Rather than feel guilty, see this as an opportunity. Identify one area of personal discipline or virtue to strengthen. It could be as simple as committing to a regular wake-up time, or listening without interrupting, or managing your budget better this month. Treat it as leading the organization of yourself. Over time, these self-leadership habits compound. The Stoic man's influence grows not because he seeks power, but because he has proven he can guide at least one person reliably, himself. Others then trust him to guide more. In summary, leadership is earned. The Stoic man earns it daily in the laboratory of his own life, and from that internal command, he becomes someone who can lead others with integrity and calm, an unshakable guide in both calm and storm. 12. Silence is his final word. There is immense strength in knowing when not to speak. In an age where many feel compelled to comment on everything, to respond to every slight, to constantly assert their point of view, the Stoic man is comfortable in silence. Often silence is his final word. This is not out of timidity, but out of wisdom and mastery over himself. The Stoics highly valued sophrosin, or temperance moderation, which includes the restraint of one's speech. Epictetus advised, "Keep silence for the most part, and speak only when you must." and then briefly. While that might be extreme for modern life, the spirit is that we should speak with purpose, not impulsively. The Stoic man applies this. When a conversation devolves into petty bickering, when an online thread is clearly a flame war, when someone is baiting him with insults, he often simply chooses not to engage. He would rather keep his dignity and peace than win a pointless argument. Silence can be powerful. It can imply, I am unbothered and above this trivial provocation. It can signal listening and contemplation rather than knee-jerk reaction. The Stoic man isn't interested in having the last word in an argument. He's interested in the truth and in outcomes. If silence achieves a better outcome, like de-escalating conflict or denying a gossip any fuel, then silence it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, engaging in constant tit-for-tat, trading insults or trying to shout down detractors would make him just like those detractors." He opts out of that game. This doesn't mean the Stoic man never speaks up. He does when it matters. He will defend his principles or others if silence would imply consent to wrongdoing. But even then, he speaks deliberately. He's measured and factual, not carried by fury. After stating what needs to be stated, he doesn't feel the need to keep arguing just to feed his ego. He can speak his piece and then let silence do the rest. It's like planting a seed and walking away rather than digging it up every minute to see if it's growing. Think about social media or any public forum. Often the loudest voices are not the wisest. They're just loud. The Stoic man is content not to comment on everything. If he doesn't have something constructive to add, he would rather observe. This confers an advantage. By listening more than he speaks, he actually learns more. He can understand others' perspectives, detect underlying issues, or simply enjoy the quiet of not always needing to opine. As an exercise, try sitting in a meeting or group discussion and intentionally speaking less. You might notice dynamics and solutions that escape the chatterers. The Stoic man does this naturally. Silence is also tied to the earlier point of protecting peace. Not every accusation or rumor deserves a response. By refusing to dignify certain things with an answer, the Stoic man starves them of oxygen. People eventually move on. Meanwhile, he conserved his energy. As the saying goes, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty and the pig likes it. Some conflicts are like that. The Stoic identifies them and abstains. At a higher level, silence reflects confidence. Those truly secure in themselves have no burning need to prove anything to random others. If someone says, "You'll never succeed," or attacks him personally, the Stoic man doesn't have to fight back to affirm his worth. He knows actions will speak louder in time. His silence says, essentially, think what you will. I will continue being who I am. And indeed, over months or years, the consistent results and character of the Stoic will usually outshine the critics. A far more satisfying outcome than any snappy comeback in the moment. Ask yourself, do you find yourself drawn into debates or explanations that, in hindsight, weren't worth it? Have you ever felt that sinking feeling after sending an angry text or email, wishing you had just waited? Next time, consider the Stoic approach. Pause and decide if silence is stronger. You might be surprised how often it is. This could mean literally not replying, or it could mean a polite, minimal response that ends the exchange. Thank you for your opinion, or I have noted your feedback, and nothing further. In the end, the Stoic man's quiet resolve often says more than raised voices ever could. In a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, the one who can hold his tongue when needed exerts a mysterious influence. His composure itself commands respect. By not reacting to every provocation, he shows that his sense of self isn't at the mercy of others. That unshakable poise is the mark of a man who has built himself up from within. Throughout these principles, one truth shines clearly. The Stoic man does not chase, he builds. He isn't running after ephemeral things like validation, praise, or shallow thrills. Instead, he is steadily constructing something far more solid, a life of character, purpose, and inner peace. By focusing on building himself and his mission, he attains a strength that the world cannot easily give nor take away. This path is not the easy path. It requires courage to embrace solitude and face oneself. It requires self-honesty and discipline to choose growth over immediate pleasure. It takes resilience to stand by one's values, even if misunderstood or unappreciated in the short term. It demands restraint to forego needless arguments and attention-seeking, but the rewards are profound. The man who walks this path finds clarity of thought in a confusing world. He experiences depth of purpose in an age of superficiality. He forges authentic relationships based on mutual respect, not neediness. And he enjoys an inner fortress of tranquility that external circumstances struggle to shake. In your own life, you might not become a perfect Stoic sage. Few of us will. But you can certainly apply these ideas step by step. Maybe start with one principle that resonates. Perhaps you want to work on discipline over desire by setting a small daily challenge, like no phone during meals, or waking up 30 minutes earlier to read instead of scroll. Or maybe alignment over approval speaks to you. You could practice voicing an honest opinion where you'd usually stay silent out of fear of judgment. Over time, these small practices accumulate into traits, and traits into an ethos. The key is intentionality, living from the inside out, not the outside in. Let your values and reason guide you, not the herd or the impulses of the moment. Build habits and virtues brick by brick. It is a slow process, but when life's storms come, you'll be grateful for every bit of that foundation. Ask yourself, which of these Stoic principles do I need the most right now? Where am I still chasing something hollow, and how can I instead start building something real? What is one boundary I must set, one silence I should keep, or one purpose-driven goal I should give priority to? By reflecting on these questions and taking action, you move closer to the Stoic ideal, not needing to chase what is fleeting because you're too busy becoming what is lasting. Your life, built with integrity and intention, will speak for itself. And that life, once well built, is unshakable, is